Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine this picture.
Yeah.
It seems simple, right? An elderly woman, she's in her yard reaching up for figs. Kind of peaceful.
Yeah, seems that way.
But then hold that thought, and boom, suddenly you're waking up. People in green smocks are all around. You can't hear right. You're totally disoriented.
Uh-huh.
And your mind is racing about like a stray cat,
Yeah.
and whether you left the oven on.
It's such a jarring shift. And that contrast, that's our way into Elner Shimfissle's world. From these novel excerpts you shared, a really powerful opening.
Right. It throws you off balance immediately, just like Elmer.
And we've got this, well, this wealth of material here. It all starts from this one thing, this fall in one woman's life, but it just weaves this incredible tapestry,
Yeah.
Characters, events, different viewpoints.
Affecting the whole community.
Exactly.
So our mission really in this deep dive is to kind of follow those threads. We want to explore the chain reaction from Elner's fall and all the confusion afterward.
See how it ripples out.
Yeah, the unexpected ways it hits not just her, but her family, friends, Elmwood Springs, really. We'll pull out the key moments, those surprising insights and, those details that just stick with you, often funny ones too.
And we'll see how news gets twisted, right? How people's own lives, their anxieties, just shape how they react to something like this.
And what her sort of extraordinary experience reveals about everyone else's quote-unquote ordinary lives.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The beginning. The inciting incident. Elner's fall. The source puts us right there inside her head right after it happens. What's so striking about her viewpoint at that moment?
Well, the thing is, her mind isn't really on, pain or being hurt, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
She's lying there, sees people looking down at her, and her first thoughts are these little specific annoyances, like movie ushers not wearing uniforms anymore.
You have to find your own seat now, right?
Exactly. And then the worries kick in, but they're practical worries. Did she turn off the oven? Did she feed Sunny, her cat? Not, am I okay?
Right. And she sees people talking, but she didn't put her hearing aid in that morning. So it's just noise, a faint beeping. So her perfectly logical conclusion, from her point of view,
Just take a little nap. Wait for Norma, her niece, to show up.
I figure she'll get home, check on the cat, check the stove, everything will be fine. Simple.
Which is such a contrast, right? Compared to Norma's perspective, which we get next. Norma is just pure anxiety in these pages.
Oh, yeah.
The source really goes into her history of nagging Elner about the ladder, the hearing aid.
Leaving doors unlocked, the messy house.
Not eating right, not going to the doctor, all of it.
And the big thing here, she'd specifically made Elner promise Mackie, Norma's husband, would come pick the figs. Because Elner was too old for the ladder.
Exactly. So when Norma hears about the fall, it's just immediate dread, total panic.
Fueled by years of worry.
And she instantly jumps to the worst conclusion. Broken hip? Has to be.
Now Mackie, Norma's husband, he seems like the steady one here.
Yeah, bless him. He tries to calm Norma down, tells her, stay put. He knows, from experience probably, that Norma freaking out at the scene just makes everything worse.
So he decides, I'm going first. Assess the situation himself. He's genuinely worried about Elner too, of course.
So Mackie gets there, calls Norma back, gives her the report, confirms, yes, an ambulance is coming, but, and this is key, he tells her, Elner says she isn't in pain.
Doesn't matter, does it?
Not to Norma. She's already locked into that broken hip fear. The ambulance confirms it for her. She doesn't hear the no pain part at all.
Just screams about the ambulance, right?
Pretty much. Convinced Elner's badly hurt, Mackie trying to reassure her. Totally useless against that wave of anxiety for Norma. It's like, see, I knew it.
Okay, so Elner's down, Mackie's there, Norma's panicking miles away.
Right.
Now we see the ripple effect kick in it immediately. How does this news, or rather the distorted news, spread?
It's fascinating how fast the wrong news that Elner's died takes hold, and how it just activates everyone's routines and relationships. Tot and Ruby hear it first.
And their reaction, pure sadness, right?
Yeah, the source says they call it the end of an era. They remember Elner always being there their whole lives.
And then the practical worries start. What about the Sunset Club? Their nightly meetup in Elner's yard.
Exactly. And the Easter egg hunt, Elner always hosted it. Who's going to do that now?
So they decide they need to start calling people. Partly to show the sad news, but also
To kind of spare Norma, they figure she must be beside herself, so they'll break the news gently to everyone else.
then there's Irene Goodnight. Her reaction is really touching too.
Oh, yeah. She feels physically sick. She looks at these daffodils Elner just brought her,
Wow.
and it hits her. Easter's coming. Elner won't be there for the hunt. She remembers Elner first as the egg and fig lady when she was a kid, then Miss Elner.
And there's that funny story Elner told her about the snowstorm and mistaking a car.
Right. Those little details show just how, woven into the fabric of their lives Elner was.
And Newsy even gets to the local paper through Verbena from the cleaners.
Yeah, Verbena can't get Kathy at the newspaper on the phone, so she literally runs across the street,
Wow.
bursts in, scribbles Elner's dead on some paper, and just bangs on Kathy's desk.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
And Kathy's reaction, even though she deals with life and death stories every day.
It still shocks her. And she notes the irony, right? How this full, complicated life suddenly gets shrunk down
To a little photo and a few paragraphs.
in a newspaper that's just going to get thrown away tomorrow.
But Kathy also has this personal connection. Elner lent her money for college once. $1,000.
Yeah, a huge deal back then. And Kathy always wanted to repay her somehow. Now she can't, not directly.
So what does she do?
She looks at a photo of Elner with her famous six-toed cat, the one that lived forever.
25 years.
Right. And she writes a check to the Humane Society.
Yeah.
In Elner's memory. Kind of honoring Elner's love for animals and, paying it forward.
So this one piece of wrong information just sends this wave of grief, memories, connections through the whole town. Really shows Elner's quiet impact.
Absolutely. While they're all doing that.
Elner herself is having a very different experience.
Totally different. The source shifts back to her. She's waking up feeling incredibly light.
And her first thought is still kind of mundane, isn't it?
Yeah, I should probably get up, find someone to call Norma.
She's amazed how easy it is to stand, feel so light, thinks maybe she lost weight waiting.
Then she meets her sister, Ida.
Oh, Ida. Presented as younger, prettier, and still vain, even here, still lying about her age.
And Ida apparently refused to visit Elner back in town because Elner kept chickens. So, country.
Exactly. And Ida, of course, has to mention her purse, how Norma put Ida's purse in the coffin with her because their mother always said,
The woman was never fully dressed without her purse, only Ida.
seriously.
And the description of heaven itself is pretty surprising in your sources, not what you'd expect.
No clouds and angels, really. It's beautiful, sure, sparkling crystal stairs. But Elner says it reminds her of a lovely botanic garden in Kansas City. Ida took her to once. Very specific.
Then she meets neighbor Dorothy. Right, from the old radio show. Elner listened for recipes, especially that caramel cake.
But this Dorothy says she's not the Dorothy.
No, she says she represents us. That a little part of us is in everybody, which is, a pretty interesting idea about connection.
And then the big meeting. Raymond,
Mm-hmm.
the maker.
Yeah. And he asks Elner her life philosophy.
And Elner, just being Elner, says what?
Basically, I'm not smart enough for philosophy. I just try to do my best, get along with people. Humble. Straightforward.
And Raymond accepts that.
Totally. So he couldn't ask for more, then asks her opinion of people.
And her answer is just perfect.
Isn't it? She says she always liked people. That they just tickled me to death with all their funny little ways.
Yeah.
Better than a picture show. That really sums her up.
Her simple joy in just watching humanity.
Mm-hmm. Then, naturally, coming from her background, she asks about judgment. Expects to have to list her sins.
But Raymond's surprised.
Yeah. Good Lord, no. You're not here to be judged. He says everybody makes mistakes, even him. It's part of learning.
Which leads to talking about free will.
Right. Elner questions if it was such a great idea, bringing up Luther Griggs, who always got into trouble when he had choices.
Makes sense from her perspective.
But Raymond and Dorothy explain, look, they couldn't force people to be good or to love them. They give people logic, reason, compassion, humor. But ultimately, people have to choose.
All you could do is love them and hope for the best.
It's a surprisingly compassionate take on why things go wrong sometimes.
And then, probably the most unexpected encounter, Thomas Edison.
I know, right? Elner's totally starstruck, finds him sweet and humble.
They talk about his battery car idea versus Henry Ford.
Yep. And Elner predicts, with gas prices, they'll go back to his idea eventually. Pretty sharp. They talk about movies made about him.
And they're going to have caramel cake.
Homemade caramel cake. Made by a friend of mine. Clearly meaning neighbor Dorothy. That famous heavenly caramel cake.
But even in this, otherworldly place, Elner's human worries are still there.
Oh, yeah. Still wondering about the stove, the coffee pot. She notices Ida's purse again. Thinks about that buried family Bible with her real age scratched out by Ida.
Ida was really something else.
Wasn't she? And Elner even wonders how to act when meeting Raymond. Curtsy. Kneel. It's very human.
But the main takeaway, the core feeling from her experience.
It's just this profound appreciation. She tells Raymond how much she loved being human. Loved almost every minute of it, really, from beginning to end.
Wow.
And Raymond confirms, yeah, they know, they're glad. Says they sure wouldn't have gone to so much trouble just so people could be miserable all the time.
It's presented with such detail, isn't it? It feels very real to her.
Absolutely. But back in the physical world.
Reality check. The big mistake is discovered. Elner's alive.
Yeah, back at the hospital. It's the night nurse first. Hears a moan from Elner's room, checks on her. Then during a cognitive exam, Elner starts talking.
And it's the nurse Boots who really confirms it.
Yes, Boots Carroll. She makes the call. She's alive.
And the reaction to this news is just as chaotic?
Oh, maybe more so. Total shockwave. Through the hospital, back out to the town, Ruby calls Todd again. The scene at the salon sounds hilarious.
Dropped magazines, spilled coffee.
People literally mid-grief. Planning funeral clothes, casseroles, Lucille Wimble complaining her grieving was all for nothing.
That's priceless. And Tot, who took Xanax.
Tot says she doesn't feel much then, but she fully expects to have a fit once the pills wear off. And poor Verbena rushed to tell the radio station she died. Now she's jumping up and down, shouting hallelujah because she's alive, and instantly regretting telling the radio the wrong thing.
And Bud and Jay on the radio have to backtrack, using the Mark Twain quote.
Yep. The news of my death has been greatly exaggerated. Perfect.
Meanwhile, the hospital administration, Dr. Pixton and the lawyer, Winston Sprague, they go straight into damage control.
Immediately. It's all risk management. Avoid blame. They quickly offer to waive all the hospital bills.
Which Norma is thankful for, but kind of hesitant about.
Yeah, she doesn't want to feel bought off, maybe. But Sprague, the lawyer, he's portrayed as just completely cynical.
Screw the little people attitude.
Totally. All about winning versus losing. Already thinking about lawsuits, waivers, how to spin it.
And the doctor who first examined Elner, he reflects on it.
Yeah, thinks about being exhausted, the pressure, how easily mistakes happen, wonders if subconsciously her age made him less thorough. Maybe. Just sees the hospital as always teetering on disaster.
Sprague's deposition of Elner sounds like quite a scene, too.
Oh, it is. He's impatient, rude to the nurse, rude to his paralegal, Kate Packer. And Elner just gives these rambling answers, right?
Yeah.
Talking about everything but what he wants to know.
Until she gets to the fall itself.
Right. She talks about the wasps, not hearing, because no hearing aid, taking a nap.
Yeah.
And then, this is crucial, the source says she decides right there to lie under oath.
What?
To protect Norma's promise to Mackie about the ladder. She doesn't want Norma to get in trouble or feel bad.
So she skips the whole Evan part.
Completely. Instead, she says she remembers just floating around in the air above the hospital.
Floating? How does Sprague react to that?
Dismisses it initially, asks if she was just confused, thought she left her room. But Elner sticks to it. Says she's under oath, that's what she remembers seeing. Floating. Above the building.
Wow. And later, Dr. Pixton tries to explain this to Norma, using NDEs.
Yeah, near-death experiences. He calls them fairly common, mentions the floating white light, seeing dead relatives. He's trying to frame it medically, put it in a box. Dismisses Elner's account as just one of those.
Okay, so she's back, the immediate crisis is over, but the fallout? That's just starting. How does everyone process this, her return, her story?
Well, Norma's reaction is this real tangle. Huge relief, obviously, but also intense worry.
About the heaven story.
Exactly. She's terrified. Elner's going to tell everyone about seeing Ginger Rogers and Raymond. Norma kind of wants there to be something or somebody checking up on us, but she's mostly just scared they'll look crazy.
And Mackie tries to be the rational one.
Yeah, he suggests it was a dream. Or maybe the medication. He brings up their daughter Linda having a weird pony dream after getting her tonsils out, trying to find a logical explanation.
But amidst all that stress, there's a moment of laughter.
There is. Driving home after that insane day, the shock, the crying, they just start cracking up in the car, thinking about Norma fainting twice, the nurse screaming, just pure release, I think.
And Linda, Elner's daughter, she comes home.
Yeah, rushes home, expresses relief. Elner's okay, but also a little bit of, I came all this way for nothing, but then there's the cat.
She'd promised her daughter Apple a cat.
Yes, and forgot in all the chaos. But this leads to something really positive.
How so?
Linda works for AT&T in community outreach. She realizes this whole mess can actually do some good. She declares April Adopt a Cat Month across the whole company.
Wow.
She sees it as this unexpected good thing coming out of the fall, something that would make Elner happy given her love for animals.
Meanwhile, Mackie finds something less positive back at Elner's.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. A loaded .38 gun hidden in the dirty clothes basket.
Who does he think left it?
He suspects Luther Griggs. His main thought is just get rid of this quietly. He's worried if Norma finds out, it'll be the excuse she needs to push for assisted living for Elner.
And Norma herself. Her routine changes too.
Yeah. She drives over to Elner's early the next morning expecting total chaos, but finds it spotless. Tot and Ruby already cleaned everything.
That's nice of them.
It is. But Norma still struggles with her own impulses, like wanting to tear down that Scotch tape picture of rats Elner has over her bed. But she stops herself. She does bring Elner's new nightgowns and hearing aid back to the hospital, though, still managing things.
The source gives us a lot on Norma here, doesn't it? Her anxiety, needing order.
Yeah, the contrast between her neat life with Mackie married since 7th grade and Elner's more free-form existence.
Yeah.
And that little detail about her being uncomfortable talking about sex but still doing the special bubble bath for Mackie sometimes, it shows her inner conflicts. Elner's whole experience has just thrown her ordered world off kilter. So when Elner finally gets home, what's the scene like?
Flowers everywhere. All the funeral flowers got rerouted. Some cards are totally wrong, like gone but not forgotten.
Oh my God.
But Elner just laughs, says it looks like a funeral parlor, jokes she didn't know she was so popular until people thought she croaked. Classic Elner.
She gets flowers from the radio guys. And the power company.
Yep. Bud and Jay, Missouri Power and Light. She tells Norma, very matter of fact, that falling off the ladder was good because she died and went to heaven.
Just says it like that.
Pretty much. They talk about the funeral plans, the casseroles everyone was going to make. Elner jokes she wishes she'd stayed dead for the food, could have fed Norma and Mackie for a year.
But then Norma makes a big discovery. The family Bible.
Right. Buried near where Ida planted her boxwoods. And inside she finds it. Elner's real birth year. Elner's almost 96.
And this changes something for Norma.
Big time. It's like a light bulb goes off. Seeing that longevity in the family, she realizes she's not too old to change things, to start a new career.
So she talks to Beverly Courtright about real estate.
Exactly. Sits down, gets serious about it, starts learning. Though the source mentions she's a bit uncomfortable with Beverly's pushy style, like just walking into houses. But still, it's a huge shift for Norma, directly because of Elner's fall and this discovery.
The sources also bring in Louise Franks' story.
Yeah.
An old friend.
Yeah, from the farm days, they used to visit, cook neighbor Dorothy recipes together. But there's this really dark, hidden story there, too.
What happened?
Years ago, Elner saved Louise and her daughter Polly from a violent hired hand who attacked them. Polly managed to shoot him during the struggle, and then Elner finished him off with a rolling pin.
Oh, that's intense.
Very. And the source on how lucky they were, nobody heard the shot, the guy wasn't missed, just disappeared.
And there's a long-term consequence from that? Tied to Elner.
Yes. Years later, after Polly dies young from heart failure, Louise sells the farm for a lot of money. Keeps just a tiny plot where a pet was buried. Norma actually handles that part of the sale. And Louise uses the money to build and staff a center for developmentally handicapped individuals.
And names it after Elner.
The Elner Shimfissle Center.
Oh.
Because Elner saved her and Polly's lives all those years ago. It's an incredible legacy, born from tragedy, but transformed into something good.
It really shows the depth of connection. And there are other, maybe smaller, but still unexpected outcomes.
Oh, yeah. Like Boots Carroll, the nurse who confirmed Elner was alive. She'd been demoted earlier because another nurse, sort of an informant, called her an old rich bitch to the boss.
Okay.
Well, that same male nurse later calls a genuinely rich patient, Mrs. Betty Stevens, who invented Johnny Cat Kitty Litter. The same thing. He gets fired instantly, and Boots gets her old job back.
Karma. And then Tot Wooten's transformation.
Yeah.
After Hawaii.
That's wild. She goes to Hawaii, comes back totally different, starts wearing muumuus, feels like a Hawaiian princess from a past life. She's happy, cheerful, takes hula lessons.
And Ruby and Verbena speculate maybe she found a boyfriend. Or girlfriend.
Yeah, saying how crazy the world's gone. It's played for laughs, but it shows another person unexpectedly changing course after all the drama.
And Kathy at the newspaper. She makes a final choice.
Yes. For the article about Elner's mistaken death and revival, instead of using Elner's picture, she uses a photo of her own dead grandmother.
Why?
To protect Elner. To spare her and the town all the inevitable media attention and gawking. It's Kathy's quiet way of finally repaying that $1,000 loan, protecting Elner's privacy.
It really is just ripple after ripple. Big changes, small ones. But even with all that, there are still some mysteries left hanging, aren't there? Philosophical questions.
Absolutely. The biggest one has to be about Winston Sprague, the lawyer, Mr. Cynical himself.
You dismissed the floating story, right? Called it voodoo hoodoo crap.
He did. But something about Elner's specific description, floating over the old annex building, seeing a shoe with spikes by a chimney, it gets under his skin. He can't shake it.
So he actually goes to check.
He feels compelled to, gets access to the roof of that specific building, and finds it exactly as Elner described.
Yeah.
A brown leather shoe with spikes right by the chimney.
No way. How does he react?
The source says he's just sputtering when he tells Pixton. Pixton tries to brush it off, stick to his medical dismissal. But the shoe, it's real. It's there. How could she possibly have known?
That's genuinely spooky. And then there's the cake.
Yeah, the cake in the pocket. Remember LaShonda, the nurse who packed Elner's things right after the fall? She found cake in the robe pocket, didn't throw it out.
And later she asks Elner about it. Wants the recipe.
Yep. Asks about that good cake, and Elner's answer is just perfect. Honey, if I told you, she says, you wouldn't believe me.
Implying it was the cake from heaven.
Exactly. The heavenly caramel cake she had with Edison and Dorothy. Another little piece of impossible evidence suggesting her experience wasn't just in her head.
So those things, the shoe, the cake, they really muddy the waters on what actually happened. Was it medical? A dream? Something else?
It leaves Norma still confused, as the source puts it, torn between Pixton's neat NDE category and Mackie's simpler dream explanation. But she holds on to that hope, right? That maybe there is something or somebody checking up on us, even if his name is Raymond.
And Elner herself? How does she frame it later?
She says it wasn't as complicated as people think, that Raymond's message was basically just hang in there. She takes it as a positive thing, an affirmation.
And the source really uses all this to contrast Elner's outlook with others, doesn't it?
Definitely. Elner's fundamental acceptance, her enjoyment of life's funny little ways, stands out against Tott's negativity.
Tott's pessimism gets pretty intense.
Yeah, the complaining about hate radio, the debates over evolution, the bathtub Madonna, fearing everyone speaking Spanish, it becomes too much for Norma.
Leading Norma to end the friendship.
Yeah, a really hard decision for her. She finds Tott's negativity drags her down, makes her anxious, despite her efforts to be positive, like using that little Unity Church card. Replace a negative thought with a positive one.
It shows how Elner's experience indirectly forces Norma to set boundaries.
Exactly. And we see the struggles elsewhere, too. The tired doctor making mistakes, a cynical lawyer, the difficult pasts of people like Luther Griggs or that hired hand. Against all that, Elner just shines. Her ability to connect, find joy, appreciate being alive.
It's like the source uses all these characters to show different ways of coping, living, reacting to the unexpected.
For sure. And then as a final, kind of delightful quirk, the recipes.
Right. Scattered through the text. Neighbor Dorothy's heavenly caramel cake, Louise Frank's deviled eggs, even Aunt Elner's liver and onions.
It's such an unexpected touch, isn't it? But it fits. Connects back to community, sharing, home life, those simple pleasures that ground everything, even amidst talk of heaven and lawsuits.
It reminds you that everyday stuff like cooking and eating is still central.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's try and bring this deep dive together. We started with Elner Shimfissle's fall off a ladder, an accident that was immediately misunderstood as her death.
Right, sending these waves of grief, confusion, casserole planning, all that stuff through Elmwood Springs.
While that was happening, Elner was on what felt to her like this incredible journey to heaven, sort of, meeting people from her past, even historical figures.
Thinking about life, existence, free will, and coming away with this real appreciation for just being human.
Then her miraculous return,
Yeah.
which caused a whole new kind of chaos. Hospital damage control, lawyers getting involved.
And just a whole range of reactions from everyone who knew her. Relief, worry, skepticism, you name it.
And in the aftermath, we saw these unexpected long-term changes ripple out. Norma finding a new career path.
Linda starting that massive cat adoption program. Louise Franks building the school in Elner's name. Even Tot finding hula happiness.
And woven through it all, these little lingering mysteries. The shoe on the roof, the cake in the pocket.
Yeah, details that just don't quite fit the neat explanations. They blur the lines between what we think is real and, well, something else. Challenging how we explain things.
So these sources, they really use Elner's story as this lens, don't they? To look at how one life, one event, can just cascade outwards.
Totally. And explore how our perceptions, our beliefs, our reality, how they all mix together, and just the different ways people navigate this messy, amazing, sometimes baffling thing called life.
It really makes you think about how fast we assume things, how connected we are without maybe realizing it, and how sometimes what seems like an ending isn't. It's the start of something else entirely.
Definitely. And maybe, based on the material you shared, here's a final thought for you, the listener. Think about Elner's perspective. Life, with all its funny little ways, was a gift, something to be enjoyed. And her fall, despite the chaos, sparked all these unexpected positive changes for others.
The cat adoptions, the career change, the school.
Right. So what if you tried approaching the unexpected things that happen in your life with a little more of that Elner-like openness, maybe a bit more simple joy? What if, instead of just reacting, you looked for those hidden ripples, the unexpected connections, or maybe even, the mysterious shoe on the roof that might be there, challenging your assumptions? What do you make of that?